All right, I promised in our last video, the video number 1 of this series, that I would actually do an experiment in the next video. Some of you may notice our mushroom is back from video number 1. It's just happily floating in some water at the moment. We're not going to be working with it too much today, hopefully in the next video after this one. But for right now, we're back to our oil floating on water to show that oil does float on top of water, and an empty little jar. Again, I like to use jars because they're easy to recycle at the end of all this if you decide that you got something in there that was kind of icky. This experiment that we're about to do is a little bit more expensive and uses a material that is actually dangerous in the sense that you don't want to drink it. So I'm going to actually recycle this jar when I'm done with this experiment because it's easy to do. It was going to recycling anyway, and I don't really like drinking out of something that I've had some chemicals in. So what we're going to do this time, and I am actually going to finish the experiment this time. I'm taking pity on those of you who are out there saying, you didn't tell us the answer. This time, we're going to use some rubbing alcohol. Trust me, that's rubbing alcohol. The reason I've got it turned that direction is YouTube gets a little weird about, is this product placement? Is this a paid advertisement? Did I receive a promotional consideration? I didn't, but not showing you what brand of rubbing alcohol it is. Excuse me a moment. This would be yet another example of me not editing so that you can see things. And yet, that's kind of not the point. If I'm lying to you, if that isn't rubbing alcohol, the point of this is that you should be able to do this experiment yourself. You could also conceivably use something like Everclear, ethyl alcohol, for this experiment, but that would be a lot more expensive. And we're already into the realm here. While I have marked this video as not for kids, I'm pretty sure somewhere out there on the internet, at least one kid is going to see this. Okay, I might make slight changes to the editing rule if my dog decides to run through the frame. But even though this is marked as not for kids, if a kid does get hold of this, ask your parents' permission or your guardian's permission before some adult, responsible adult permission before you mess with the rubbing alcohol. It is potentially very dangerous if you swallow any of it. So back to talking to the adults out there. Fun question. We have all heard throughout our lives that alcohol is less dense than water, but a lot of us have never actually done much to try and verify that fact. Today, we're going to see if we can verify that in a meaningful way. I'm putting some of the rubbing alcohol into this jar. That's the expensive part. That this whole thing of rubbing alcohol probably cost me $5, and I've just used maybe 50 cents worth, maybe $1 worth. I'm going to take the oil, and I'm going to add it to the rubbing alcohol in a second here, and we're going to see what happens. I will honestly tell you, until I did this experiment, kind of a first take this morning, 24 hours ago, I didn't know what would happen. I know the alcohol is less dense than water. I know the oil is less dense than water, but I don't know which of the two of them is more dense. Yeah, the oil floats in the water. I'd love to show you the alcohol floating in the in the water, but the alcohol is about the same color as the water. It doesn't have any color at all, so it's hard to see. It also mixes pretty rapidly with the water. If I add the oil to the water, shutting up and getting on with it, I'm hoping we can all see that. The oil sinks. So out of two things, alcohol and water, that we both know are, alcohol and oil that we both know are less dense than water, the alcohol is the least dense of all here. And it's kind of neat. You can see the oil floating on the water. You can see the oil sinking in the alcohol. Again, the point of all that is that, hopefully you can see that. If you can't, we get even more into the point of that. Get out these things, spend the 50 cents, and do the experiment yourself. And again, for those of you who may be saying, well, why would I bother doing the experiment myself? I just saw you do it. I could be lying. Or your alcohol could be different from mine. Or your oil could be different from mine. I think it's very important that you do it yourself, because one of these days, maybe to celebrate, if I ever get up to 1,000 subscribers, I'm going to do one where I am going to lie to you. And whoever spots the lie is going to get a very small prize. Probably a photograph of Saturn or something like that. Anyway, try it yourself. This is something you can easily do. Enjoy.